What's up, wild ones? This is Nikka, Karli, and you are listening to the Rewilding Experience. Let's get it. I figured we'd start this one off with a poem. This is called Oh My. Can I entice you into laying down your armor and bearing your everything? Can I beguile you into sacrificing your fear on the altar of your soul? Can I beg of you to spread your thighs and receive the ocean of the entire universe inside? Can I rewild you into the primal satisfaction and intricacy of the worlds that have been carved upon your womb? Can I drip on you the dusky nectar of stars and quasars as you remember who the fuck you are? Oh my. I decided to kick things off with a little poetry because sharing poems has never been something that felt easy for me. And it's interesting, like when I'm on stage or when I'm teaching, I always get like, wow, you must do spoken word. I'm like, yeah, no, psych. That's what I don't do. And I'm often curious as to where that edge is. Like what's the fear there? Because I write a lot and I share so much of my writing, but poetry has always been one of those things that I just didn't. And if you're a creator, then there's always going to be an edge for you. And it might not be an edge that seems really obvious. It might be like, oh, well, this, I write, I share writing. So if I don't share poetry, then it just must be like, yeah, oh, yeah, that's just for myself. That's just something that I keep for myself. Of course, of course. And resistance is going to show up in these kinds of ways, right? Where it sounds really good. Oh God, resistance sounds. Oh, it's like resistance is like making love to your fucking ears. It's like this. Of course you wouldn't share that, like of course you've got to keep that to yourself. Like, oh yeah, and you're like, yeah, 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 and we tend to listen to resistance because it fits right into our fear. It fits right into the thing that we don't want to step into. So it can be very simplistic to tell ourselves like, oh yeah, of course I wouldn't do X because Y. And today I'm going to invite you to really look at your edge, to look at, okay, so what is the thing that my soul and my art are asking of me? What is the thing that God, universe, divinity, great mystery has poured into my fucking veins, and that thing is clawing underneath my rib cage, like demanding to be birthed. There's like this howling that's inside of you. Though the howling is not outside. Like I talk a lot about stalking the moon and howling at the moon, but this is a howling that comes from, like the depths of you. I'm talking like your womb, your pussy, your cock, like whatever. Like it's coming all the way from the deepest recesses of your body and soul. And this howling is lighting you up, and it's waking you up and shaking you up in the middle of the night. And resistance is saying, yeah, don't do that. That's not it. Right? Like we can wait on that, or it's not the thing. Let's go do this other thing that looks really good and sounds really good and tastes really good. And it's what Stephen Pressfield likes to call, and I'm totally paraphrasing, putting in my own words, but he calls it the shadow, like the shadow career. So I say it's like the shadow path, it's the shadow art, it's the shadow expression of your soul, where meaning that it looks almost like right, it sounds almost like right, it tastes, oh God, it tastes almost like right, except it's not. So this might mean that, let's take poetry. It might mean that your soul is saying, let's share this, right? Let's speak this into the world. And so you're like, okay, poetry, yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go write a book. Yeah, not on poetry. No, no, no. It's going to be a book on creativity. Yeah, on how to fully express your creative genius. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, snap. And then you go through the whole thing. I mean, you write the book and you hire an editor and you publish, and this howling, it won't shut up. It's still there, and you're getting all these accolades and people are loving your book, and you're getting like, yo, yeah, man, everybody's hyping you up, and it feels like, oh yeah, this is the thing. Except the howling won't shut up. And it's because you chose a shadow path. You chose something that looked and sounded and smelled and tasted, and it felt like, oh, it felt so close. Except it meant you didn't have to walk that edge. You didn't have to go into the precipice, like off the precipice, into the thing that your soul was demanding of you and howling at you in the night. And so you chose to kind of take a step back from the edge and walk a shadow path. It's like a parallel path. So you chose something that was almost it. And so you could tell yourself, yes, this is it. It's writing, it's a book, people are loving it. Yeah, 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 it sounds so good. Except it's the shadow. This might look like you have this hunger in your fucking bones to be on stage, speaking liberation and truth and justice around the world. Except, resistance says, no, no, you have stage fright, you can't travel, you have family, you've got these things, you've got whatever. You're sick, you're all these things. Like, resistance will use anything. Resistance has no bounds. It will use any and everything to get you to stay away from the thing that your soul is asking you to do. And so, let's say you're being called to the stage to speak this liberation and truth and justice. And so what looks almost like right would be like, oh, you know what? All right, I'm going to become a performance coach, and I'm going to help other people get on stage because I have a background in theater and sports and blah, blah, blah. And this makes so much sense on the surface. Like, of course, this is what I would do. And I'm not knocking performance coaching, right? That's part of what I do in this world. I love performance. And also, if you're using it as a way to avoid actually getting on the stage yourself, then that's where we've got to look at this thing and say, oh, wait, okay, maybe I rock at this, and also I'm still avoiding the thing that my soul is asking me to do. And you're avoiding when dis-ease starts to set in. So dis-ease might look like disease, right? As in your body actually starts to become fertile ground for all kinds of sickness and problems. Dis-ease can look like you not being able to touch down and land. There's this, it's almost like there's this nebulous gray matter between you and the people you love. Like, you can't quite let them fully in, and you can't quite meet them where they are. It might look like this nebulous grayness that stands between you and your full-on creative genius, as in like you just can't quite touch upon the thing that your soul is asking you to do. And so it feels like I'm confused. It feels like I don't have the clarity. I don't have the discipline or the conviction to follow through. Whatever it is. Resistance. It's resistance. It can show up in so many ways, this dis-ease and this dissatisfaction. It can start to look like you tearing down amazing relationships or tearing down amazing creative projects that they're part of the path that's turning you on and really dropping you so deep. And yet, resistance can show up in many ways. And the way to battle resistance is through awareness, and and awareness and presence. And one of the biggest things, the biggest tools that I found is really what I call primal self reintegration. That's my jam. That's my whatever you want to call it, my methodology if we're going into business speak. But it is a way that we begin to unravel all the layers and strip off the masks and bare our everything, not only to the world but to ourselves. And so we've got to be willing to look at our shit and own our shit. Like, this is who I'm being, and also, is this who I'm being asked to become? And if the answer is not a full on resounding yes, then what are we willing to do about it? Who are we willing to become through this awareness and presence? And big pieces: breathwork, movement, and like completely raw creativity. Raw as in, no matter what people might say or think, that you are creating from the depths of your soul. As in, it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be, it will never be perfect. If we're waiting for perfection, we'll never ship. Like, if you're like Seth Godin, you'll never actually ship. If you're waiting for perfection, it's not going to go. And so I invite you to really begin to track what's happening in your body, track the trauma, track the stories and the beliefs and the mores and the cultural muck that's taken root through your body. One of my favorite leaders, justice leaders, activators, catalysts in this world, Resma Menachem, and he wrote My Grandmother's Hands. And shout out to LJ for introducing me to that book. I love you. And this man and his mission, the mission that's working through him, he really talks about the effects of systemic trauma and systemic ideation and beliefs and all of the things that have been laid down into our body generationally, ancestrally, and how it's affecting the way that we're able to actually show up and engage in our own lives, how we're able to see others and how we're able to see ourselves, the way that we are able to even be in family, and so much more. And this truth speaking that he's imparting into the world, I take it into social justice and also the way that we create. And so what we need to do, I mean, you don't have to do a damn thing, but if you're listening to this, then I mean, maybe you might like this piece too. What I need to do, how about that? And what I invite you to do is to really begin to look at the capacity you have for what you're being called to do in this world. And what that means, your capacity. You'll hear a lot of sports analogies from me, but I want you to think about your lungs. And your lungs, they have a capacity. So let's say you're underwater. If you are a Navy SEAL, right, you have a ridiculously expanded capacity for your lungs underwater, for how much air you can hold without needing to tap out. If you have not trained in this, you're just Joe Schmo or Jane Schmo from wherever, and you don't have this, innate ability to hold your breath underwater, then if you go underwater, you're going to tap out a whole lot sooner than someone with training, right? So I want you to think, really bring this into your creativity. If we haven't actually trained our capacity for success, for wealth, for recognition, for being witnessed, for even being able to just get our butts in the chair, getting your butt in the chair, like if you're a writer, you already know what that means. Painter, singer, like you know what it means, right? Like, get your butt in the chair. Are you actually creating? Did you create today? Right? Like, did you create today without expectation of how much money it would make me, or how much fame it'll get me, or how much whatever? Like, you just got your butt in the chair without those worries. You just got your butt in the chair. And all of these things, they go into our capacity. All of these things affect how much we're able to actually create. So if you look at your love, safety, and belonging, right? I'm just going back into like base needs, base hierarchy of needs. If you're trying to get those needs met through your creativity, then you're cutting yourself off at the knees, right? You're cutting yourself off at the past. If you, however, are looking at your capacity for those things in every other area of your life, and then you're looking at how that's bleeding into your creativity. I know this is a little bit out there, so and a little bit meta, so stay with me. If you're looking at how you're looking at your capacity for those things in every area of your life, and then you're looking at, okay, what am I expecting of my art? Am I expecting my art to fulfill me on and help me belong? Am I expecting my art to be the thing that gets me the recognition and the love that I desire from my family? The, I'm so proud of you, or like, oh, I understand you now. Like, I get you. Are you looking for your art to provide you safety, whether that is through having a community that supports you and stands by you, whether that is through paying your bills, whatever it is? Are you looking for your art to do all these things for you? And then look at the capacity that you have for these things in your life. Look and you'll know your capacity by how quickly you need to tap out. So let's take belonging, for instance. How quickly do you need to tap out when you start to feel like you're actually beginning to belong to a group, to within a relationship, like with a partner, whatever it might be? How quickly do you feel like you need to tap out once that intimacy and that depth and that sense of someone truly, truly fucking knowing you and you truly knowing them? How quickly do you need to tap out, right? That same amount of that capacity before you need to, like, I can't do this anymore, and you start to destroy things and you mess things up in whatever way, or you run away, or you go into your threat response, fight, flight, freeze, appease, whatever it is. How quickly do you tap out? How deeply are you able to go before you need to tap out? And then look at how that is showing up in the way that you create. If you look at your art and you're trying to get a sense of belonging from it, but your capacity for belonging in every other area of your life is, let's say you've got like a 1 month window, that's your capacity before you tap out, which means anyone gets too close, anything gets too close, you get too intimate, you feel like you're starting to become known, and you tap out after about a month, okay? Then look at that in your art. Look at how you're expecting your art to fulfill that sense of belonging, and you will notice that there is about a month capacity, and this is give or take, I'm just using this as an example. There's probably about a month capacity before you start to check out, tap out, become distracted. Let's say you're going for a new project and you're all in, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna book the venue, and I've got the things, and I'm committed, and I'm showing up, and I'm getting my butt in the seat every single day. I'm putting my butt in the chair. I'm creating. I'm loving this thing. Oh my God, I'm so focused. I'm distilled down. I know. I believe, like, all the things are there. And then about a month later, everything, like, there's progress, all the depth, you're in intimacy with your art and your creativity and the way that you're showing up and expressing in the world. You probably had about a month, because that's that capacity. That's when you tap out in other areas with intimacy and belonging. You probably have about a month with your art before you start to tap out. Now, this is just an example. It's give or take. This is not, remember, we're working with soul stuff and body stuff and mind stuff, so it doesn't actually work on a linear timeline. So this is just an example that I'm inviting you to feel into. So looking at where you're expecting your art to show up for you, and look at how quickly you tap out when you're showing up for your art. And we've got to begin to expand our capacity. So not only with the way that we create, but with the way that we feel and experience the rest of our lives. And this is your relationships. This is with joy. This is pleasure. This is with orgasm. This is with your connection to God, art, soul, all of the things. What is your capacity? How deep are you willing to go? How deep is your body able to go before you hit capacity and tap out, before your lungs begin to feel like they're going to explode if you're underwater and you had to come back to the surface? Really look at this, really feel into this, write this stuff out, paint it out, draw it out, but get clear on what your capacity is. And that's when you begin to do, like, that's where the work comes in. That's where the depth of work comes in, where you get to sit down, okay, do your breath work, do your movement practice, do your creativity, like do like whatever it is. That these are the key pieces for me. But how are you going to really tap into that primal self, that primal part of you that's going into threat response around how much you can hold before your body, your mind, your energy, your emotions have a freak out, before there's a systemic shutdown, right? Before you start tearing things down in your life because you've hit capacity, and the only way you know to tap out is to tear everything down around you, or whatever your MO happens to be. If you want to finish what you start, if you want to go all in, if you want to have the capacity for a ridiculously high creative output with the work that you're here to do in the world, then you've got to expand your capacity for how much you can hold in your body. And that takes the behind the scenes work, the everyday work, body, mind, soul. What are you doing in order to, when shit hits the fan and when you start to get near capacity, you have presence, you have awareness. You can say, oh, I'm getting towards that edge. This is where I usually pull back. This is usually where I take my foot off the gas. Or go, ovaries to the wall and like burn myself out, because that's just another way that resistance shows up. Because of course, if we burn ourselves out, we can't continue. It looks good on the outside. It looks like we're going all in, and yet we're burning ourselves out, because then that makes us have to stop. Resistance 1, body 0, right? So look at your patterns, and then begin to really cultivate a daily practice through ritual, through ceremony, movement practice, running, boxing, martial arts. Get that, like, oh, that powerful yang energy and work where your body is used to being under pressure and uncomfortable. And you train yourself to know that you can move through it. That's a key piece. Another piece, that sensual, delicious, primal movement and breath work that drops you in, that gives you the cathartic shaking, that gives you the release of traumatic patterns and wounding that your body is still holding, and creating from that space. Yeah. I think that's a good space to call it for today. I hope that this makes sense. I hope that this resonates. I know that for some of you, this is like, yeah, I know that, and also, so I'm going to invite you. Also, are you living it and embodying it every single day? Because that's when it transforms from knowledge to wisdom. If this is something that you're just kind of like, what the hell? I haven't even like started contemplating how all of these pieces fit together, then really, really like embrace the fact that you're here today. Ooh, it's 1:11 p.m. Yeah, 1:11. Embrace the fact that you are really stepping into this and dropping into this, and see how it's going to work for you. Anything that you hear from any creator, be it me or anyone else, whatever, try it on, see what fits, leave the rest, right? Two of my old mentors, Preston and Alexi, they always say that, and it's just so resonant, right? What resonates in your body, that's what you have to figure out. That's part of the work, right? It's part of the work. So, this was a full episode number 1. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so grateful for you being here. I can't wait to continue this journey, to continue really opening ourselves and dropping into the primal self and what that looks like in the way that we make love, make art, and make an impact in this world. So thank you for being here. I love you. Yeah. And as always, here's to your untaming. Bye, wild ones.